Good morning. Metro Rail. Ridership on Metro has returned to pre-pandemic levels. But after decades of neglect, followed by years of working to get Metro fixed up, regional leaders are still figuring out how they're going to pay to keep it from falling apart again. For Wednesday, December 3rd, it's your Loudon Now Morning Minute.
Each week, the Loudon Education Foundation's field program provides weekend meal bags to 2,000 LCPS students and their families. As the need grows this season, please consider helping support your neighbors right here in Loudoun County. For just $30, you can provide meal bags for 10 families. Give at loudoneducationfoundation.org. And thank you.
Thanks for being with us. I'm Renss Greene. Metro Rail has spent years trying to catch up on even more years of funding shortfalls, which had caused the system to fall into disrepair. In fact, you may recall it developed sort of a reputation for a while. Now, Metro leadership have made progress on getting the system fixed up, but they say funding is still a challenge in the long term. They've come up with a plan they say can fix that, and they're looking for buy-in from local and state governments. Metro is funded by Maryland, Virginia, Washington, D.C. city government, and Congress, and each one funds it slightly differently. The Metro Board passed a $2.5 billion budget for this year. 22% of that budget is funded from fares and other revenues, while 77% is subsidized by D.C., Maryland, and Virginia. For you mathemagicians, that last 1% is carryover from last year. Loudon Supervisor Matt Letourneau this past summer stepped down from the Metro Board of Directors after serving there for years, including during those rebuilding efforts. Actually, the organization that runs Metro, as a note, is formally called the Washington Metropolitan Area Transit Authority, or WMATA for the acronym. Anyway, he said the newest funding proposal is the result of years of work.
When I started this effort in 2020, we were concerned about both the operating and the capital budget. Obviously, we went through the pandemic. Metro lost a lot of ridership. It lost a lot of revenue. We ended up asking our partners essentially to give us a one-time plus-up on our operating money to help close the gap of what we needed.
When COVID hit and everyone stopped riding the train or indeed going anywhere, that did not help. Metro refunded some of the funding it had that year.
During the pandemic, we gave all the jurisdictional partners relief. We actually gave money back because we weren't providing the level of service that they had been paying for. None of us knew what the situation was going to be with governments and revenue and all those kind of things. But that kind of put us in a hole that sort of multiplies over time. At the same time, Metro was dealing with a huge rise in labor costs because the labor contract at the time was tied specifically to CPI with no upper limit. So when we went through that period of like massive inflation right in the middle of the pandemic, we were having to do 6.5%, 7% raises at a time when revenue was crashing. So it was a bad situation.
But he said Metro leadership has got part of the budget sorted out and looking good into the future. That part is the operating budget, which is more or less what it sounds like. The capital budget, which funds projects to maintain the system or build expansions and improvements, however, remains an open question. Since 2018, the Metro budget has included $500 million a year in capital funding, but Metro leaders now say that's not enough. They point out that while that dollar figure hasn't changed from one year to the next, that money has 32% less purchasing power today than it had when that was established just 5 years ago.
That was a flat amount of money that didn't grow from one year to the next. And if you ask anybody, Loudoun County government or private sector, have your cost increased for goods and materials since 2018, i.e. inflation, everyone would say yes.
That was Metropolitan Washington Council of Governments Executive Director Clark Mercer. And they're using up their debt capacity, too. Metro issued debt quickly to address those deferred maintenance costs, but will hit its borrowing limit in fiscal year 2029.
So that state of good repair, making sure that the tracks are operational, that the train cars are operational, that Metro is running as efficiently as it can run, will be in jeopardy. And the quality of the service will revert back to where it was a decade ago when we had rail fires and delays and escalators broken, that sort of thing.
Over the past year and a half, WMATA and the Council of Governments have led a project called DMV Moves, figuring out an answer to the problem. But with a system that gets funding from 4 different governments, a big part of that work is getting everyone to agree to something. The task force agreed that $460 million a year in additional funding will be needed to meet Metro's capital needs, and, like the operating budget, it should grow by 3% each year to help keep up with inflation. Mercer said the goal is to make sure we're not back here again in another few years.
Can Metro manage that money in a way that they can issue bonds for projects, pay those bonds off, and then issue new bonds and have what we call a revolving bond program? Revolving so that we're not back in 5 years talking about fixing Metro's capital program, that they can be sustainable for the next generation. But that manageable on the bill payer side, on the Loudoun counties and Alexandrias and Maryland and DCs of the world, is that an amount of money that is manageable for those paying the bill to pay year over year? And that's where we think we've come up with a number that's doable and manageable, for both sides of that equation.
In Virginia, the state and local governments split the cost. Under the DMV Moves proposal, overall, Virginia would increase its contribution to the capital budget by $142 million, with $5.9 million additional coming from Loudoun. That would mean Loudoun's total capital contribution is $13.6 million. Loudoun's also expected to contribute about $36.7 million in operating costs this year, so a little north of $50 million overall. For now, the county covers that out of its gas tax. Loudoun has also set up special tax districts near our new Silver Line metro stations to help fund the system. DMV Moves didn't just come up with a plan for funding the system, by the way. Their plan also looks at other improvements, including improving Metro bus service. According to the plan, congestion in the region is slowing down the buses and driving up costs, and at least $70 million each year is spent on bus service that sits in traffic. Now that plan goes out to all the Metro jurisdictions to see if they can all agree with it. Go to loudounnow.com/Morning Minute to check out the whole story. In other news, President Donald Trump surprised everyone at a cabinet meeting yesterday by saying he wants to rebuild Dulles Airport. He said, quote, "We're also going to rebuild Dulles Airport because it's not a good airport. It should be a great airport, and it's not a good airport at all. It's a terrible airport." End quote. There's also still a bill loitering in Congress to rename Dulles Airport after Trump. That was introduced in January by Republican members of Congress from Pennsylvania, Texas, West Virginia, Georgia, Maryland, Tennessee, and Florida. There was also a similar bill introduced back in March of 2024. A Metropolitan Washington Airports Authority representative said they didn't have any information on this proposal, but expect to know more soon. Metropolitan Washington Airports Authority Executive Vice President and Chief Revenue Officer Krissa Westerlund said this year that Dulles is the fastest growing international airport in the United States and served a record 27 million passengers in 2024, with 30% growth forecasted over the next 5 years. While we're talking government projects, let's turn our eyes to the town of Round Hill, where they are filling up their new 500,000-gallon water tower 4 months ahead of schedule. The new Airmont water tank on Yatton Road south of town is expected to add capacity and improve water pressure across the town's water system, while also providing some redundancy in the system when the town drains its other storage tank next summer to refurbish it. That one has been running for more than 20 years, and they expect to have it up and running again next fall. Town project manager Rob Lohr praised the work of the planning and construction teams and acknowledged the benefits of near-ideal weather conditions over the past several months as the tank was built. The tank will be gradually filled up over the next several weeks, which is good timing because demand for water is relatively low this time of year. Nobody's watering their lawn or anything. Construction of the Airmont water tank was supported by funding from the county government, which provided 2 grants, $3.7 million from the county's capital projects budget and $1.5 million from its allocation of America Rescue Plan Act, or ARPA, funds. Round Hill's utility system is unusual in that the majority of its 1,800 customers live outside the town boundary. And a Loudoun native and Loudoun County High School Hall of Famer has been appointed commissioner of the Valley Baseball League, which includes the Percival Cannons. Rick Furr grew up in Middleburg and played in Upper Loudoun Little League across the county. He went on to star at Loudoun County High School, where he still holds the record for a .550 batting average. If you're not a big baseball person, that's a pretty wild batting average. He was inducted to the Loudoun County High School Hall of Fame in 2019. He went on to play for Lewisburg Junior College in North Carolina, which is a junior college baseball powerhouse and ranked top 10 in the country while he was there, and then the University of Maryland, which made it to the Atlantic Coast Conference Championship. And in the summer of 1979, he was recruited to play for the Winchester Royals in the Valley Baseball League. Now, 35 years later, he's the league commissioner. We spoke to Rick Furr, and we've got the story on our website, so get the full story on this and all these stories over at loudounnow.com. On today's Get Out Loudoun calendar, 8 Chains North Winery is hosting Poorhouse Trivia tonight starting at 6:30 p.m. And Crooked Run Fermentation in Leesburg is hosting Wednesday night karaoke tonight from 7 to 10 p.m. Check out the rest of the events calendar at getoutloudon.com. And if you like the Morning Minute, rename Dulles Airport to the Morning Minute International Airport to tell all your friends, and subscribe wherever you get your podcasts. It'll be waiting for you there every morning. Okay, have a great day.